Hello! Welcome to my vlog. In today's episode, I'm going to share my experiences when I took my Ielts. That's correct po, experiences, because I did not only take it once, but twice. So, to start, so for my first IELTS test, which I took back in March 2019, I took it po in Bangkok, Thailand. Just to give you a little background, I used to work in Thailand as an English teacher, science teacher, and the last job that I had there was as a learning support assistant in an international school. And so at that time, it was my 5th year in Thailand, and I just realized that I wanted to move to a different country and hoping to finally settle down. I think Thailand is a great country. I really enjoyed my years of working there. I traveled around Asia and really had fun in my 20s. But then at that point, I decided to try using my degree as a nurse, which at that time I wasn't really able to do so. And so I heard about UK opening up in terms of their nurses. And I had this, and I still have this one particular friend of mine who really encouraged and motivated me. She inspired me to also take the IELTS because she did it at that time. I saw on her Facebook account that she flew to the UK, and I was like, okay, I want to be like that as well. And so I contacted her. I asked her what she did, what are the things that she processed and things like that. And she told me instantly that the first thing to do is to take the IELTS, because you have to make sure that you pass the requirements for the NMC as a nurse, which at that time it was overall score of 7, and for the reading, writing, speaking, and listening, it should not be lower than 7 as well. So back to March 2019, I asked this sign from God, and I said, okay, Lord, I will take this risk. So I will take the test. If you allow me to pass this test, then that means that you are going to help me, that you want me to pursue this career, nursing career, to the UK. However, if not, then that's also a sign that maybe it's not for me. Maybe I would just be continuing my work, in Thailand, or probably pursue maybe a different country. So in preparation for the IELTS test, I didn't join any classes because in Thailand it's pretty expensive. And another thing is I don't have time, because usually I work Monday to Friday, and then after work, after 3 p.m. I also have my part-time job. So most likely I'll be home maybe 6-7 p.m. So I really don't have time. And even on the weekends, of course I do rest if I want to, or I also have some students for part-time tutoring as well. So it's just really hard to enroll for a formal IELTS class in Thailand. Although it's also actually really good there because there's a lot of English native speakers in Bangkok, and so the teachers would be English speakers. and that would be a very good exercise and practice for you. And it can be pricey as well. I can't remember how much it would cost me, but it's definitely higher compared to the lessons or the classes that you would get when you practice, when you study in the Philippines. So overall, I didn't enroll to any formal IELTS school in my first IELTS test. So I decided I'll just do it by myself. So here's what I did. So for listening, it's actually quite easy because you will have a lot of resources that you will find. And I think the most beneficial for me was on YouTube. There's a lot of sample tests and answers there that you can practice. So what I did, I prepared myself for 2 months, I think. Yes. So for 2 months, I tried to take one listening sample a day if I can, and then just check it afterwards. I think it's also not hard for us like Filipinos because we listen to English songs, we watch English movies and films. So listening is not, it wouldn't be, the reason of failing IELTS. I think that's for me, in my opinion. And then for the reading. So for the reading part, I did try to download free samples online as well. So I just Googled it, like free IELTS, academic IELTS download, something like that. And then it will show examples. So I just did that. I printed from school, which I think it's not allowed, but I have access to the printer, so why not just use it? So I did that as well. I would say that reading was a little challenging, although in the first place, I love reading books ever since. So comprehensive wise, I'm okay. However, the problem I think was the different styles of the test, and there you should know, because there are some tips or strategies to make it quicker, to make it easier for you. So that's one thing that I've also tried to learn for the reading part. So find the question using the keywords, and then what works for me is I try to highlight it, and then from that one sentence or 2 sentences, then you analyze what was the question about. Okay, so I would suggest for reading that you really get reading samples with answers, because you will, if you keep on practicing it, it will be easier. You will get to learn the technique, the right technique of answering the reading IELTS test. And then thirdly, writing. Okay, so for writing, so I think this is the most challenging for me overall, because it's just it's so, sometimes it's difficult to express yourself properly through writing. And I think most Filipinos are struggling with it. For me, however, what I did online as well, you will see a lot of samples, a lot of questions that you can practice in, and basically it's about you. So you will have the part 1, for example, and part 2, and then it's for you to write down your answer. So it's really time consuming as well. So you have to practice timing yourself in less than an hour. So I did that. However, I wasn't really, I'd say, confident in writing, although I did try my best. Yes. And I also have a blog, which is iraonherdreams.com. So I think that was kind of like a little way of me practicing my writing. But you know, I'm not really good with writing, but I did try with it. So that was one of the hardest, or I think the hardest for me was writing. And then the last is speaking. So speaking is a little nerve-wracking, because it's when you will be able to talk like face to face with a person, with a real person, and most of the time, you know, they're native speakers or those fluent in English. So it can be really nerve-wracking. You will be very nervous and anxious. In my case, so I took the IELTS test, the first test. I think it's in Planchit. So there's I can't remember. I will find some pictures if I could. There was an examiner, and he's a native British because of his accent, and so he was asking me questions. I remember he asked me, of course, just, you know, personal things like what is my name, how do I want to be called, if I prefer tea or coffee, and then he asked me about my best friend and what experience made me happy or inspire me regarding my best friend, something like that. I can't remember the exact question now, but I remember answering it, talking about my best friend Zyra at that time. So just, you know, just try to express myself fluently as possible. But at the end of the test, I felt so drained, like literally. I think my neurons are dying at that time, because I've used all my English skills during the test. And it was really a good experience. So overall, I'm going to show it on the screen. So on that test, this is also a funny story, because I've got an overall score of 7.5. The highest I've got was in listening, which is 8.5. However, my lowest is 6.5 in writing. And at that time, I told you it should be all 7.0. So I was quite sad. And then I remember on that day, it was a lunch break. So I texted Grace, my friend in London at that time, and I told her, you know what, Grace, I think UK is not for me, because I have the result now, but I've got 6.5 in writing. And then she told me, Ira, there's a new policy, new requirement for IELTS now for nurses. Just literally, I'm not sure, 2 to 3 days before that they have implemented it, and it says that they've lowered the score for writing to 6.5. Imagine that. Oh my gosh, I was so relieved. I was so happy, because then, you know, that means that I can continue, I can pursue this UK dream. Although at that time as well, of course, I'm worried and sad, because that means I have to leave Thailand and go back to the Philippines so that I can get some clinical experience, because believe it or not, I haven't had clinical experience after my graduation. So wait, I just noticed I have this hair. Sorry guys, I just put lipstick on for this. I haven't really combed my hair, but never mind. Okay, so that's that. So yes, it was, I think, a huge risk for me to do. So I resigned from my job. I left everything really, and then flew back to the Philippines. So that's the first IELTS test. And then I have this agency who told me that I needed to take at least 6 months of work experience. So I did that right away. When I came to the Philippines, I applied in a hospital in our town, and just really, just the goal is to get the 6 months experience so that I can continue to the next step. And I was thinking, because IELTS expiration is for 2 years, so I think March 2019, and then it will expire 2021. Yeah. However, so because of COVID, of course, and the delays in everything, really, the pandemic has caused a lot of problems, depression and anxiety to a lot of people. I know that. Grief as well for those who passed away. So I'm not going to complain. However, it was also unfortunate for me because my agency told me that I had to take another IELTS test because mine was expiring before I flew here in the UK. I came here in the UK March of 2021, and the IELTS should be still valid until you take your OSCE. And I took my OSCE in May 5. So it's expired. Okay, so when I heard that news, I was like, oh my gosh, then I have to do this again. I was very worried, to be honest, because I was living in the Philippines for, I think, over a year then. And, in comparison with my life back in Thailand, I was using English more than when I was in the Philippines, because in the Philippines I was just talking in the local dialect. And there's really not much times that you'll be able to talk to English. So I was like, okay, then, although, I'm pretty confident that your English level won't really go down quickly, but the thing is, I haven't really practiced it that long for me. And so, they told me, the agency told me, I think that was December. So December holiday time. And they said, okay, Ira, if you wanted to be a part of the March deployment, so you need to take the IELTS as soon as possible. So by December, I booked IELTS again. And at that time, it wasn't easy because of COVID. So there weren't really a lot of slots, available slots for the test. And the agent was even worried because she told me that sometimes the other applicants had to wait as well for their test because there was just no available schedule. However, I don't know why, but because I was in Cebu then, I was with my mom, my family, and my sister and my brother, and I just checked, schedules for Cebu, and I think it was the moment when they started just opening again for the IELTS test. It wasn't so strict; they weren't closed or anything. And then when I opened it right away, I found a schedule for January, actually December 18th. So I think I only had 2 to 3 weeks of really preparing for this exam. So I took the test December 18th of 2020. So that was the craziest thing. I have very limited time. And so I decided to find some online classes that I can join in. I wasn't working in the hospital then, because I was just, waiting for the agency to give me some updates really for my application to the UK. However, I was working online as an English teacher, so my schedule was a bit more flexible. So I said, okay, I have extra time to do extra lessons for IELTS, and that's when I found the 9-9ers. So I'll put the link here down below. So it's called 9-9ers. It's awesome because they are flexible. Because of COVID, I guess they have this online platform for their students. So that was perfect for me. I can just go to attend classes through Zoom, and then we've also got trainers for your speaking and writing, and we can do it through Facebook. So just everything is digital, just everything is online. So that was really good. If I had extra time, I also attended, they have everything, classes for pronunciation, for grammar, just to review you of different tenses and things like that, what words to use, vocabulary, everything. So I think I did the right decision of enrolling myself for 9-9ers. I mean, sulit yung bayad mo with them. I think what I enjoy the most with 9-9ers is the chance to really test yourself, because my biggest worry at that time was my writing and my speaking, because as I said, I wasn't able to talk to people in English. So I did try to at least once a day book for a coach, and then we'll do just speaking. And I think I was able to manage that. Writing is still a huge problem, I think. I wasn't really very good, like on the top. Sometimes I go down as well. They give this feedback about things, and you have to be straightforward, direct to the point, comments and things like that. So writing is still a struggle for me back then. But anyway, so for the second test, I did it in Cebu. It's in Seapills. Seapills or Seapills. And so I went there. And then, so of course, we're following social distancing. There weren't really a lot. So they've got this big room with computers for the listening and reading tests, but they were like maybe not even half of examinees came in at that time. So I think they're just really limiting the number of people who will take the IELTS test. And so we did that. That was quick. And then the funny part was the speaking test. So speaking test, because of COVID, they improvised. They have this room, and then the examiner will not be asking you face to face. The examiner will be somewhere, I'm sure, in his or her house, and then we'll just do the test through computer. So I remember, so there's a long table, and there's a computer in front of me, and then there's a headset. And so I have to just, put the headset on, and then that's when she would ask me questions for the IELTS test. The thing is, because there was a heavy storm, I think, that time, so the internet connection was bad. So we keep on cutting off, and I can't hear. So I say, sorry, can you say it again? Can you repeat the question? But so eventually what happened was it was stopped. And then, you know, I went back to the waiting area. Then we waited for, I think, an hour until the connection gets back. Not too much rain outside, something like that. But it was a very long wait. It was around, because the schedule was 3 p.m. and I think I left maybe at 6. It was dark and still raining. And I was like, oh my gosh, so hungry. But eventually we survived. I survived. So for the questions there, so they were like just getting to know questions about my job. What are the challenges? And the last part, I think, was about definition of success. So what defines success for me, and what makes a great team. So yes, I have to, you know, explain, give examples as much as possible. And that was it. The end of my second Ielts test. So that's why I did a test 2 times. Anyway, thank you, COVID. So for my second Ielts, this time my overall, believe it or not, was higher now. So it got 8.0. And in fairness, everything actually went up as well. My reading went up 8.5. I don't know why. However, big question mark is still on writing, which luckily I still got to be there in that border, which is 6.5. So I didn't manage to go up at least 7. My goal was really to get 7.0 just to try, you know, but it didn't work. So but at least I still passed. So after, I was so relieved after I saw my test results. But at that time, you know what, I was so determined. I said, if I fail this test, I'm just gonna try again the next week, and then try again and try again. That's how motivated and determined I was to really push through with this dream, you know, because I told myself, you know, I've risked everything. This is what and where I want to go. So I'm just gonna continue. But luckily it's just one test and I passed. So I immediately submitted it to my agency and they confirmed, you know, that okay, so you're gonna join the March deployment and things like that. So you need to fly to Manila and process everything. So that was a great relief for me. All right, I think I talked a lot. So my final advice is, it depends on you guys. If you want to do it by yourself, if you trust yourself, or if not, you can always find some classes, enroll yourself, you know, just so you can really practice and focus. We have different strengths. It might be listening, writing, and weaknesses. So I would say definitely focus on your weaknesses more than your strengths. So if you know that you're already good in listening, for example, then just practice lesser compared to the ones that you find most difficult. And just believe in yourself. Don't give up. And I know it can be costly, but you know, just keep on trying and I'm sure it will come. So if you have any questions about IELTS or anything, please leave a comment down below and I will try to answer them. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, share and like, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.